They tried to slap that look right off my face, but I'm still grinning. And the money ain't run out yet, so I do believe I'm winning. For all the mess I was them and will be continuing, and the fun is only beginning. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. We recap WWE Smackdown every Friday night after the bell. But tonight's a special night, or day rather, as we are recapping Smackdown a couple days after here on Super Bowl Sunday. My name's John Zindel. This is Dom Scarcella. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
You called it. It is Super Bowl weekend, and the WWE started their road to their Super Bowl WrestleMania on Thursday in Las Vegas and then had a big SmackDown the very next night. So without further ado, John, don't bury the lead. What's our top story from SmackDown from February 9th?
Dom, we don't ever bury the lead. And let me tell you, the lead going in to the show is Randy Orton defeats Sami Zayn in the main event to qualify for the Elimination Chamber. This was a regular main event match heading into SmackDown, which we haven't seen a lot of lately. So kind of refreshing to get a real match here. Randy Orton goes over Sami Zayn. Dom, what'd you think of this match?
Not a bad match, especially for SmackDown. We got 3 Elimination Chamber qualifiers on this show, 2 for the men's and 1 for the women's. And the men's qualifiers bookended the entire SmackDown here. I thought they were both really good. I mean, they played up Sami Zayn versus Randy Orton as a bigger deal and put that on last. Not only because it was a fun return to SmackDown for Sami Zayn. We haven't seen him in many, many months since he was drafted over to Raw. And
Right.
the crowd loves him. I mean, he gets the same pops on Raw. Sami Zayn seems to be in that guy who's losing a lot lately.
Yeah.
But he's still over with the crowd. He still works great. The other person in the match looks good. And this was that kind of match. Sami looked great, but yeah, Randy Orton gets the win here. Sami winds up leaping over Randy off an Irish whip. But then, of course, as Sami lands, he's right in position for Randy to just peek backwards a little bit and RKO him. And that was after Sami had slithered out of 2 RKO attempts earlier. So they were really playing up that, Randy was having trouble locking in that RKO finishing move. But he finally did. Big pop. I mean, 2 baby faces. So the crowd, this wasn't like a baby face real heel match where the crowd is clearly on one side or the other. This was just a really good physical pro wrestling match, and the crowd seemed to enjoy both performers.
Yeah, for sure.
I did too.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty good. And when I saw it was Randy Orton versus Sami Zayn, I was like, wow, these are 2 big guys.
Yep.
To go head to head. And we had more of that this night too, which we'll talk about in the follow. But just regarding this match, the Blue Thunder Bomb and the kick out, that was a really good spot.
Yes.
And Orton's so big that when he does the Blue Thunder Bomb to him, there's a huge impact. And then probably the spot of the match was the superplex by Randy. And it's funny because I feel like there's a lot of big spots in some matches, and you'll just like a superplex is almost just another move, but they built to it really well getting there. They're not doing a ton of high spots, so they're doing some basic simple stuff in the beginning, and then they get to the superplex and it looks like $1 million.
It not only looks like $1 million, but like you said, they built to it. It made sense in the match. They had been playing up that Randy Orton was dealing with a back issue, that Sami Zayn had worked over his back pretty well. So when Randy hits this fantastic superplex, he can't make the cover. he's like trying to get his own bearings because his back is bothering him now. So yeah, that was a great high spot that could not result in a finish. So, and I'd rather they do little things like that with the ring psychology than have the match be 10 minutes of, finishing moves, guy kicks out.
Right.
Like hit a big spot, but have the guy who hit the spot for a logical reason not be able to make the cover. So it's like Sammy could have been pinned there, but Randy was in no shape to make the cover.
Right. 100%. And I saw an atomic drop, and I always love that move because it's so simple. And
yeah,
like, okay, yeah, atomic drop, bang.
Yep.
It looks good. So those are like the spots I called out. So Randy Orton qualifies for the Elimination Chamber. Anything else you want to talk about with this match specifically, Tom?
Yeah, the size of the two guys. Randy Orton has been very cautious about not doing power moves.
Mhm.
Yet he did that superplex to Sammy. So I don't know if it was just that maybe Sammy's weighs a little less than Randy. I don't know if it was that Sammy could do it or that, they had gone over with Sammy and he trusted Sammy to kind of be in position and help him get over with the move. But whatever it was was neat to see Randy Orton try a power move, especially for a guy who's 270 pounds. He weighs more than Roman Reigns at this point. And to that, it was impressive to see Sammy hit the Blue Thunder Bomb on Randy Orton, a bigger wrestler. We talked about it last year's Elimination Chamber, how he was able to do that to Roman Reigns, and it looked fantastic. Even though Sammy is doing a power move on a bigger guy. So we don't think of Sami Zayn as a power wrestler, but some of his moveset is more power laden than Randy Orton's.
Yeah.
But lots of great stuff. A fun match to watch. It was only 11 minutes, but it was a good call to have this be the main event. I think it was a good TV main event match. Randy Orton goes over. He's going to Elimination Chamber. As is Drew McIntyre, who beat AJ Styles also in 11 minutes to lead off the show.
Yeah, and that's the lead. Maybe we can move to the follow here, Dom.
Yeah, right to the follow. This was Elimination Chamber. So they're not only building WrestleMania like crazy, but they don't want to forget about this pay-per-view in the middle, Elimination Chamber. They've done so much. We'll get to it more in Cheap Heat about all the hype they've done for Elimination Chamber. But I think also the huge pop they got for last year's in Montreal, it's no longer a throwaway pay-per-view in the middle of Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. So as they're trying to build a WrestleMania, like Elimination Chamber's getting a lot of play on this show.
Yeah.
And I like that they're doing that. They're not glossing over this other pay-per-view as they try to do their traditional road to WrestleMania. So Drew McIntyre, AJ Styles, Drew goes over in about 11 minutes. There was some interference in this match, and we'll get to that a little later. But what did you think about this match and the outcome?
So I was pretty pumped in the beginning because, I didn't know if this was going to be like a whole Cody, Roman Reigns show where we're reviewing and they're talking about this. And I think maybe one of the problems I had with the SmackDown last week, I was like, there wasn't really like a lot of good matches. And right away, opener, AJ Styles versus Drew McIntyre. I'm like, oh, I like both these guys. I definitely want to see this.
Yep.
So, and it's a simple enough reason to have them wrestle each other, but there is a reason where basically, they have the winner goes to Elimination Chamber. And then with AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre, I was like, either one of these guys could win it. It feels like Drew's getting a little bit of a push on Raw. And we don't watch Raw, so I'm not quite sure of it. So he goes over, which makes sense. And I guess they want to make AJ Styles seem strong, so they have the LA Knight interference.
Yeah, right before this match gets underway, LA Knight's music hits, and he joins the announce table.
Right.
Which is fantastic. He gets a huge pop from the crowd, and he's great on the mic. And they're playing up. There's still some bad blood between LA Knight and AJ Styles, and they wind up on the floor. Drew and AJ do, and they're over by the announce table. The announcers got to go scurrying out of their seats, and LA Knight's got his water bottle there. He just kind of leans it on the table and tips it over so that it dribbles out onto AJ Styles, who's prone on the floor there.
Right.
And, then he's acting like, well, it wasn't me, He's just messing with AJ Styles, because these two guys, we've seen it for a month now. And I hope that the outcome of this match not only makes Drew look strong and go to Elimination Chamber and maybe be the guy who faces Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, but I think LA Knight, AJ Styles has to be a one-on-one feud. And I think they're setting that up. I'm all for it. I think it would be fantastic. We don't see Drew a lot, but we've seen AJ and LA Knight plenty.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about what they're trying to do here with LA Knight and AJ Styles? And would you want to see it?
Yeah. It's like two of the best guys on SmackDown.
Yep.
Two of the best, and that's excluding Roman because he's kind of in his own category on SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
But they're two of our favorites that we speak highly of.
Sure.
So that'd be a cool rivalry. I noticed AJ, like, he's been doing the look where he's got the big pants, but now he's kind of back to his old look. So I don't know if he was like playing babyface for this one and he's going to switch back to heel, because they kind of have him. They're trying to get him to be kind of more of a heel in certain situations. They kind of have him go back and forth, right? A little bit like Asuka. Like
he's a tweener now, isn't he?
He's in between. But
he's breaking up with the OC. He's like giving the cold shoulder to, the Good Brothers and to Michin. But at the same time, they kind of needed him to be a little bit babyface against Drew. But if he's going to be there against LA Knight, it's better for him to be the darker, edgier, heelish guy that we saw during Royal Rumble in that Fatal 4-Way. So, yeah, you're right. Would this work as LA Knight babyface AJ Styles tweener, or do you want a definite heel persona from AJ if they do this feud?
Yeah, I guess he could flip it over to heel, but it's tough for him to go heel because people like him too much.
He's too below, right? And his moveset is high flyer. People want to cheer for that.
Yeah. He's gonna have to change some things to his game. So he did a dive at the ankle that I really liked, because I haven't, or like toward like the lower body, which I haven't seen people kind of just acknowledge the fact that like Drew McIntyre is a freaking giant, right?
Yes.
So like, yeah, you should treat him as such. So he's like hitting the lower body. I like that spot during the match.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like Drew McIntyre.
Okay.
But I don't have a ton of notes on this match. Anything you wanted to call out specifically that you liked?
They did the thing again where, they're teasing a finishing move, but it's not quite. Like AJ ducks a Claymore early in the match. And then Drew, you're right, after that attack to Drew's leg, Drew had hit a DDT and did a kip up, but favored his left knee. So good ring psychology by the guys playing off of what happened earlier in the match. They're not just, walking it off and these things vanish. Same thing we talked about Randy Orton playing up his back and why he couldn't make a cover on a superplex. So Drew hits the DDT and does a kip up and then starts favoring his left knee as he tries to set up the Claymore, and he takes too much time, and AJ winds up ducking the Claymore and then applying his calf crusher onto the left leg.
Right.
Like, this all made sense. Like we don't see enough of that from the spot fests. You get some veterans in there who know ring psychology, and suddenly it's like you're watching a different product. Mm-hmm. When you get people in there who understand ring psychology and logic and who get the sequences of moves and you play up things later in the match that you did earlier. It's callbacks to something you did a few minutes ago. And it was great to see. Now, eventually Drew gets to the ropes and the match continues, but what a great little spot midway through this 11-minute match. Fantastic match. This match finally ends. AJ Styles rolls up Drew McIntyre when they get back into the ring after being outside. But the ref is distracted by LA Knight, who's now up on the ring apron, because when they were outside, AJ got in LA Knight's face for the water. Drew shoved AJ into LA Knight, which knocked LA Knight down over the chairs. So now LA Knight's got a beef. So it's a little chaotic. The ref is going over to get LA Knight from climbing into the ring, like, hey, get out of here. While AJ's got Drew rolled up for a 3 count, but there's no ref. And that pisses off AJ. He runs over and gets distracted by LA Knight. And then as he turns around, he turns right into perfect timing a Claymore from Drew. Like it was just spin around, boot to the chin. And that's the pinfall for Drew McIntyre. So I like the timing. I like the psychology. And I like the outcome for 2 reasons. I like Drew McIntyre going to Elimination Chamber and maybe being the main event for Seth Rollins. And I like that they did not just abandon the AJ Styles LA Knight hostilities after the Fatal 4-Way. This is a good program for each of them.
Right.
And I think we're going to see it maybe at Elimination Chamber.
Yes.
I'd like to. They haven't announced it, but I'd like to see this at Elimination Chamber, or maybe they continue it and this is the WrestleMania match for each guy. Is LA Knight AJ Styles an Elimination Chamber style match, or is it good enough to be a WrestleMania match? And the answer could be both.
I kind of want LA Knight to get a shot at some belt and win it at WrestleMania.
Okay.
Quite frankly, I thought he's in position to knock off Roman. That's where I'm at with LA Knight. I think you could make a serious argument that he's the most over babyface of the company. Yep. I know Cody's the last week or so. There's been some proof that maybe Cody is, which is good. You have 2 guys up there at the top.
Yep.
But I think LA Knight's been up there for a while, and so is Cody. For the 2 that I'd be like, yep, that's a champ. So
okay, so that aside, like the fact that AJ LA Knight would preclude LA Knight from going after a belt. I mean, just from a fan standpoint, you'd want to. Is that a WrestleMania caliber match?
For sure, you got 2 good guys that are really good. I think they're both deserving. And I think it could be one of those matches where they put it in the middle of the card, and you'd be like, "Oh, I forgot about this one. This one's pretty good." You definitely have the ability for LA Knight to develop any sort of good rivalry between 2 people because he's so good on the mic. AJ, he's good enough. I think he's charismatic enough, but like he's not like an amazing talker like LA Knight.
Is he better as a heel? I mean, because you could just be brooding and get over as a heel, right?
Yeah.
It's tougher for some guys to be babyface persona because it just comes off as fake.
Babyface promos in the WWE specifically, it just always comes off as corny, and
right?
Sometimes.
So maybe this is what we need. Like LA Knight has figured out the secret to babyface promo. And AJ Styles can be a brooding, darker edged heel. So maybe this will be a good one. I'd like to see it. This was a good opening match. It followed Triple H doing some damage control with Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis. That's not a match, but it's a big story because the day before they had the big throwdown at the press conference in Vegas, and they announced that it will be. They listened to all of the audience members, all the fans. It's going to be Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns at WrestleMania for the big belt. And now apparently Rock is an ally of Roman Reigns. And it looks like The Rock might be a little heelish here. And they sort of played that up. Triple H was in there kind of running down The Rock. And Triple H was getting cheered for it. Do you like The Rock in somewhat of a heel mode and, the entire Anoa'i family kind of coming together here?
For many moons, actually many moons ago, when Vince was in charge, he would just plow forward and really not listen to the crowd, right? So it's kind of good that they are listening to the crowd, understanding the reaction. And I didn't know if this was a weird swerve to begin with, where they were going to make it seem like The Rock, and then they were going to swerve back. I talked to you backstage about this before, and by backstage I mean in a separate chat. But this has a little Vince Russo vibe to it, where we're doing like swerves. But I know they need to get like this going. Like, there's a lot of time between now and WrestleMania. and you can't just. I guess they're thinking you can't just do promos with The Rock or with Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. So
you did that last year. What's different about this year? So as not to get into that stale thing of just doing a repeat at what's supposed to be your biggest show of the year, is this the new thing that Cody Roman 2 needed?
You know, I think at least
could it be?
Yeah, I think it was a good move, and it seems to have bought them more time, add some extra elements to the storyline, and like set him up as the kind of like what they did with Daniel Bryan many years ago. Sort of similar in that path, where like he wasn't getting the opportunity from the people up top, and then they eventually have to give it to him.
He wound up winning at WrestleMania, didn't he?
Yeah. I wonder what they're going to do with The Rock. And somebody recommended, I mean, I couldn't believe this, but I think it was George Kittle, who's a tight end for the...
We're going to get to it. We're going to get to it in Cheap Heat.
Oh, we'll talk about Cheap Heat.
That's a nice tease for Cheap Heat. We've got some Super Bowl talk for Super Bowl weekend in Cheap Heat.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
But
it's going to get warm and inexpensive in here in no time at all. Just bear with us, folks.
Right. We have so during this promo though, what did you think of Triple H's promo altogether, like start to finish?
I liked it. He was intense. He still looks like he wants. There's 3 guys in the ring who look like they still want to wrestle.
Yeah,
they look like they still hit the gym. It's Adam Pearce, 5-time NWA champion, Nick Aldis, multiple-time NWA champion and TNA champion, Triple H, more than double-figure WWE champion, and they all look like they still hit the gym and want to go.
Yeah.
You know, and they're all still intense. They know how to talk. They know how to do a promo. Surprising to me that Triple H, as the authority figure, gets such babyface pops. And I wonder if they're setting up The Rock to be kind of, you know, he's the heel authority figure because he's on the board of directors. And, you know, Triple H is the lowly chief content officer. Like he's almost nothing. He's a peon compared to The Rock.
Of course, the titles are ridiculous. Chief content.
He's C-suite. A lot of you know, we all have heard of CEO, Chief Executive Officer, and Chief Operating Officer. Companies later adopted Chief Financial Officers to get, you know, all their finances, especially for publicly traded companies. But then depending on what kind of company you are, if you're a content company, Chief Content Officer has become a big deal. Companies that do marketing, they have CMOs, Chief Marketing Officers. So the C-suites have expanded as these big businesses get huge. So, yeah, I mean, Chief Content Officer, it's not for every company, but that if your business is content, that's a big deal. Like Triple H has a big role in this company, but they're playing it up that compared to The Rock on the board of directors, like Triple H is like the underdog here. And he gets that underdog babyface vibe going, and the crowd's cheering for him. You know, he's taking shots at The Rock, and the crowd's cheering. So if they wanted The Rock to be a heel, they've done it. And I don't think, and like you said, maybe this was their plan all along, in which, in case it was brilliant. I think it was more of they were stunned that the crowd booed The Rock, and they said, well, we can't screw up the road to WrestleMania. Let's just go with it.
Right.
And, you know, a nice brainstorming session.
The only thing was, so I think the promo was pretty good. Sometimes I roll my eyes when Triple H comes out with the heavy metal rock music.
Yeah.
And then like he's in this suit and he's like, he's got the old song, but he's just out there to give an announcement.
He's a bureaucrat. You could turn down the Motorhead for your bureaucrats, right?
Yeah, the Motorhead, right. He's playing Motorhead, and he used to come out with the motorcycle when Motorhead would play. And that was the gimmick, like where and now it's like, oh wait, he's just in a suit. But
yeah, Motorhead, the soundtrack for corporate yes men.
Right. So he comes out, but he, like you said, it seems like he wants to wrestle, but he can't. But he does a good job, I think, just kind of giving a straightforward promo. putting the storyline where it needs to be and stepping away rather than like sometimes they do these promos and they go on and on and on and on. I think this one was timed pretty well. And then he did a good job handling the what chants because those have creeped back in steadily over this year, which is really strange because I thought
it was not a unanimous babyface reception for Triple H, wasn't it?
They started to get the what chant, and then he immediately started to change his tone so that you really can't do the what chant and was kind of talking like I am now, where you're kind of not stopping and just saying your statements rather than saying your little like 5 to 10 word statement and stopping and then getting to what. So you at least adjusted to the what chant.
What is your real-time signal that you're getting too rhythmic, but regularly rhythmic and predictably rhythmic, and the people are tuning out what you're saying because it's just the cadence that's hitting them.
Yeah, exactly.
So, instead of blowing an entire promo, going back and having somebody say, "Yeah, you didn't seem to have it now," like the crowd will tell you right away.
Yeah, it's funny that they still have situations where they're training on the cadence when the what chant exists. You would think like, okay, the what chant's here, let's stop doing the cadence. But they stick with the cadence.
And the better guys like Triple H understand what it is. Like, okay, yeah, I my bad, I'll switch it. So he saved himself. Triple H saved his promo.
Yeah, he did a good job saving it. Of course, the what chants are also, they're pretty annoying, but it is what it is. Like, they're going to get them. And if you're getting them, it's usually because they're not too interested in what you're saying, which is weird because I feel like this has been a pretty good storyline. I was actually pretty interested to hear what he had to say.
Yes. Then again, they set all sorts of records with their Thursday press conference as far as social media hits and views for their videos across all their platforms. So, I mean, maybe the hardcore people who bought tickets in Vegas already knew a lot of this stuff. We're like, okay, get on with it. You're out here. It's 8:50, or back out there on the West Coast, it's 5:15. But anyway, it's 15 minutes into the show. I got 3 guys in suits in the ring. Let's get a move on.
I wonder if those tickets were free. Like
how the press conference maybe.
You know what I mean? Like how much? It's got to be a tough draw. WrestleMania press conference, and it's not in Las Vegas. WrestleMania.
No, it's not. It's in Philadelphia.
Right. It's in Philadelphia. It won't be in Las Vegas. So what? I could see it kind of being big around here because you'd be like in Philly because you'd be like, oh yeah, let's see what they're going to talk about the upcoming show. But I can only imagine they were free. But it did look like there was a good amount of people there.
Yeah, it did. It was a very good end of the week. It was a better end of the week than end of the previous week for WWE.
For sure.
Like this was a good recovery of what's going to be your number one storyline for your biggest show of the year.
Absolutely. Well, I think we talked at a good amount there about the Triple H segment.
What? What?
Well, it is annoying. I can see
right?
I can see why they don't like it.
Hey, we had another Elimination Chamber, or we had a tag team number 1 contender match. Where do you want to go next?
We can talk about yeah. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this one because we haven't seen this team yet. So DIY versus Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne go over in a very fast-paced tag team match.
Yes.
And I'm curious, what did you think about Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne kind of getting the win? And more importantly, this new team DIY, because I don't think you've seen these guys.
I've seen clips of them. They're on Raw. They seem to all be mid-sized to smaller-sized wrestlers for WWE heavyweight. I mean, they're all big human beings, but they're mid-sized to small for WWE. They all worked together very well as the match went on. I think it was a little too contrived early. Like this match opens up with Tyler Bate and Johnny Gargano doing what looked like way too choreographed grappling. That's not how people would grapple.
Yeah.
Please go back and watch, Asuka and anybody else. You learn how you're supposed to do actual opening grappling.
Yeah, you're right. It was more like a gymnastics routine that was in the style of grappling. I know what you mean.
This was the kind of thing that they should have wanted.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
It's like reversal, flip, reversal. What? This was getting into too predictable, rhythmic for no reason whatsoever, fake grappling. But then they started working a little stiffer with each other with the punches and the strikes. I like just about everything that happened after that beginning. Like you said, this was a fast-paced match that made it seem longer than it was. This was only 8 minutes long. Bell at 9:19 here on the East Coast. Here we're in New Jersey. Match finishes up with Pete Dunne hitting the bitter end on Johnny Gargano for the pinfall at 9:27. So they did a lot of work in 8 minutes here. I like it. I like the idea of Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate getting a push against Judgment Day. We also haven't seen much of Judgment Day. All of the belts that are getting defended are not on SmackDown. Like Logan Paul just talks to people. Roman Reigns just talks to people. The men's tag belts are not here. The women's tag belts just came back, but they're involved in some other storyline and aren't really defending them a lot. You know, the Intercontinental belt's getting defended, but on Raw. So, you know, I'd like to see what these guys can do against Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Finn Balor's another guy who's about their size. Damian Priest will be the monster in that matchup. But I do wonder what that match will look like just from a chemistry standpoint. I mean, what do you think of these guys? Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. I mean, we just gave him the award for the guy who loses so much but makes other people look good, and now suddenly he's getting a #1 contender tag title shot.
Yeah, so Pete Dunne for me is good. I've always liked him. I like his style. He's smaller in size, but he's like thicker, and he actually is pretty intense. He wrestles like a big guy, you know. He wrestles like above his size.
Yep.
I think there's other guys like that too.
Tyler Bate, they punch above their weight class.
Yeah. And AJ Styles is not very tall, but you have no idea because the style that he wrestles and the way he looks, you just like think he's a big dude. But he's not very tall. So anyway,
I'm blanking on his name. Who's the thank you guy? Gable.
Oh, Chad Gable. Yeah.
He's another one of those guys.
Yeah, Chad Gable is a legit athlete, though. He was in the Olympics for wrestling, so that's a surprise, right? So Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, I like them. I like Pete Dunne a lot. Tyler Bate, he's got a lot of unique things, right, that he does. He kind of feels like a comedy act, right? Is he coming off more like a comedy act or a great wrestler? Which one?
He's coming off as a big man in a littler man's body. He's doing, like you said, power moves. He did a double airplane spin where he had one guy by the legs and another one up in a fireman's carry. And he's like airplane spinning both of them.
I was not feeling that one.
No, it looks too contrived.
Also,
but it's an impressive feat of strength for Tyler Bate. But it looks too contrived. Like I could see Braun Strowman doing that. I don't need to see Tyler Bate doing that.
The thing is, the swing has been done by Cesaro historically, and he does it like 20 times, and it's really impressive that he's able to hold the guys as long as he does. He swung them like 3 times and stopped. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So we're going to take the swing but not do it as well, and then we're going to add an element to it. I don't know. I just was like, some of the stuff he's doing. I would say this. Let me see if I warm up to him, and let me see, more importantly, if the crowd reacts to him, then I'll give him a pass because there's some stuff I just don't like. But if the crowd's into it, then I'm like, all right, well, the crowd's feeling it. Kind of reminds me a little bit of AEW Orange Cassidy. There's a guy who's way over, and he does like the most goofy comedy stuff ever, but he's just so over with the crowd. I'm like, it's undeniable. So I'll just accept it for what it is. Tyler Bate, hopefully, he gets over with the crowd. But for me, it's
surprising that Pete Dunne doing this transformation has gotten this kind of push. See, he looked like he was lost at the end there in the Brawlin' Brutes.
Yeah,
as Butch. Surprising to see him catch on so quickly, or does it feel like he and Tyler Bate are kind of being forced down people's throats?
No, I think it's more that it seems like, at least, and I think they correctly do it, is like when the people lose matches and they're good workers and they can put on good matches, they kind of make up for it down the road. They're like, we'll give you some wins.
Okay.
You got to just do your part right now, get some losses. And if you look good, then, and he does look good, it's time to give you a little bit of a push here.
Judgment Day are heels. So from what I can tell, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, DIY, they would have been clear baby faces. Are Butch, Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, are they baby face enough to really make that a stark contrast in the tag match?
Yeah, especially with Tyler Bate. I don't think he's wrestling heel, right? He's doing a lot of goofy stuff. The crowd's supposed to be alive. So, yeah.
And he wears his underwear to the ring.
The look, I can't get over it. The underwear thing.
What do you think of our other Elimination Chamber qualifier we had here? On the women's side, it was Bianca Belair versus Michin.
Yeah, so
that was our only women's match of the night, though we did have one other very good women's segment that we'll talk about after the matches. But what did you think of Bianca Belair Michin?
Bianca Belair versus Michin.
It was another 8-minute match, but they packed a lot into 8 minutes. So
both Bianca Belair and Michin, again, two people. I think Michin especially is someone we really both have liked. Mm-hmm. And I wrote good TV match.
Well, yeah, wasn't it?
You can make an argument that was probably the best match of the night.
It was really good, even though it only gave them 8 minutes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is they did a lot with the 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said good TV match. And then Bianca Belair did my favorite, the 10 punches in the corner, which is like they weren't doing a lot of moves that gave the cheap heat to the crowd to do. Like the cheap stuff where like they'll count all throughout the night. And like the crowd was like, oh yeah, 10 punches. We're into it.
Yeah.
And I think Michin always impresses me when she's out there. And Bianca Belair is a great matchup because she can match anybody athletically.
Yep.
Even, I don't know, Bianca Belair is really good.
There's a reason she had the title belt for so long.
She's just really super athletic
and
smooth with everything. Like, you know, and I'm going to steal a Jim Cornette line, but she wrestles like one of the guys. And that's not an insult, you know. She just is very athletic. So.
Except for the backflippy thing that looks a little too like, come on. But yeah, she moves. Becky Lynch has talked about that. She was in NXT, and they told her you have to move like a woman. And somebody pulled her aside and said, "Don't listen to him. Just move like a wrestler." Yeah, there's a generic way to wrestle that is neither male nor female, and thankfully the WWE's gotten away from that in recent years. And it was with that Becky Lynch class that came out of NXT, and people like Bianca Belair, who are legit athletes, benefit from it, right? Because she comes in and she just wrestles like an athlete,
right?
And so does Michin. Now, Michin, you just brought up, so here's a callback that, you know, Butch, Pete Dunne as Butch, was putting guys over, looking really great doing it, making sure the other guys looked great, and then suddenly was due for a push himself. Michin, could you see her getting a push? Because she's losing a lot, but she's impressive.
She is my early favorite for the women's Ricochet Memorial Award, for sure. I actually wrote that in my notes. Ricochet.
She's got to keep it up for another 11 months, right?
If she can continue to wrestle matches like this and lose, man, she's got it locked up. Good for her. And that's a prestigious award that she could get.
It is, because if they announce that Michin's going to be in a match, you're like, oh, great. Same way you would if they announced Ricochet was in a match.
Yeah, right. So
it's like, oh, it's a Ricochet match. I'm not gonna miss this.
So all in all, though, I'd have to say good match from Bianca Belair and Michin. I liked the 10 punches. I thought it was a good TV match. Do we want to move on to the next thing here? And I have something that's not a match, but segment related.
There's a few of them. Which non-match segment? We already talked about the opener. Which non-match segment do you want to go to next? Your call.
I kind of want to rapid fire here just about this one.
Okay.
R-Truth getting a huge pop. I mean,
comedy act, and yes, huge pop.
Say what you want. It's a comedy act. When they put him on the screen, the crowd popped like crazy, and the whole stadium started chanting R-Truth, R-Truth. You know, so I was like, whoa.
There's more than one way to get over, and people may not know, but back in the NWA days, he was a great wrestler. He held the NWA title belt at one point.
Really?
Back when TNA was affiliated with NWA, I think R-Truth had that belt. Yeah, so he was not always a comedy act. So it's fun for me who saw the R-Truth from 15, 20 years ago to see him now. He's still in great shape, but apparently this has been his WWE persona, and people know this. I've seen some clips of him. So yeah, I don't mind a comedy act getting over if it's a comedy act and he does it well.
Right. And yeah, right. If it's funny, it's like a big key. And
we talked about him in the Royal Rumble. He was great in the Royal Rumble, and it was like, this guy has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah, him not knowing that it was the Royal Rumble and then a tag match was fantastic.
Yes.
And then ultimately too, like I like that backstage segment. And then any other segments stick out to you?
Yes, they're talking about Braun Breaker still hasn't made a decision. He was talking with Triple H as to what he should do. And that's when Paul Heyman interrupted and said, "Oh, it doesn't look like this is a good time. I'll be here next week with Roman Reigns and The Rock." So they're plugging next week's show, which is going to be the Go Home Smackdown stateside, because the following Friday they're going to have to do it from Australia unless it's recorded.
Yeah.
They'll have to do SmackDown from Australia and it'll be recorded anyway, but the question will be, will it be recorded, say, the Saturday after next Friday and aired on the 23rd, or will they get to Australia, record something in Australia, and just have it aired at prime time in the U.S. for Fox?
I didn't even think about that.
The 16th is their go-home show live for the U.S.
They're going to have The Rock in a taped SmackDown?
Next week's going to be live, but that's the last one that will be live.
Right.
Because the 23rd one has to be taped.
Yeah, the 23rd.
They either have to tape it like Saturday at a house show, or they have to all fly to Australia, tape it there, and because they're not going to air it at 5 a.m. on Fox. Fox isn't going to do that.
Yeah.
So the 16th of February is the go home stateside show for SmackDown.
Gotcha. You're right.
As far as live TV. So Roman Reigns, The Rock, they're loading it up. So I get that. They're giving Braun Breaker a push here, even though they don't know what to do with him yet. This is just kind of buying a little time. I don't mind that. They're doing this so you don't forget about him. Whereas I think they made us forget about Jade Cargill for like a month or two there.
Yeah, it was a while. We talked
before
about
bringing her back. This tells me they don't want us to forget about Braun Breaker. So good for him. Good for him. How about the thing we saw in the ring? This was right at the 9 o'clock hour. They gave that key segment to Bayley.
Oh, yeah.
Out in the ring by herself, getting sort of babyface reaction and talking about the betrayal by Damage Control. And then it's Io Sky, Asuka, and Kairi Sane who walk out. This is the last vestige of Vince McMahon, right? Put all the Japanese women together and make them speak no English, or just a little bit. Paint their faces.
I know.
Call one of them. What's that thing? No. That you don't want that word. Kabuki. Fine, kabuki.
This is the last of Vince McMahon's weird racially charged gimmicks. So
right?
we have to put all the Asian women together. Oh my God.
So they all come out and they surround the ring. And before they did that, Dakota Kai had come out and kind of apologized for not being there last week, saying that she had to meet it with her doctors because she's very close to being cleared to return to the ring. Which good use of real life in there. She is literally, late January was her time to get in there with her doctors and see if she could be cleared to wrestle. So that true story that they worked into a storyline. And she's trying to apologize to Bayley. So when the rest of Damage Control comes out and surrounds the ring, Dakota Kai leaves and comes in with a chair. And now it's like, oh, now she's surrounding Bayley too. But instead, Dakota Kai swings at each of the other three members to get them to, retreat back up the ramp. And then she just kind of stares at Bayley, and they kind of have that, are you on my side? Are you on my side thing? Which tells me that pretty soon Dakota Kai is going to hit Bayley with that chair.
Right.
What do you think about putting that segment at your 9 o'clock hour? Because for a while they've been putting matches over that key changeover for television. What do you think of just giving that to a talking segment? And it wasn't Logan Paul. It was Bayley. They have a lot of confidence in this angle. I mean, I have confidence in this angle because they can all wrestle, and I love seeing them. But
they really do have a lot of confidence. That's a good point. They're really pushing this angle, but I think it's probably the best storyline, one of the better storylines they have going at the moment, because Damage Control,
especially on the women's side, right?
Yeah, Damage Control's kind of pretty over, and they've been getting pushed, and they've been over, and they've had Io Sky be the champ for a while now. What was it? SummerSlam she won, so
she cashed in Money in the Bank. Was it SummerSlam? Yeah,
in Detroit. So she cashed in then, and she's had it for a while, and
so it's half a year. It's a pretty good run.
Yeah, and I think they've done a good job with. I mean, she's done a good job. I shouldn't say they have.
She has.
She's done a good job as a champ, and we'll see now Bayley, who I think the crowd's always wanted to cheer for, right? Even when she's a heel, she's just super likable. So
she works to stay over as a heel.
Oh, yeah.
For a year and a half, we've seen her work to stay over as a heel.
When kind of going out, ripping the signs and not high-fiving the people when you go out and stuff
calling
like that.
people idiots, yelling at the crowd during the match.
Yeah, right. No, she's done everything she could. And you could see she's a person that just eats it up. She loves when the people boo her. You could, some people don't like it as much, but she's a person that really embraces it.
Yep.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about with this show here, Dom?
No, I think this was quite a Super Bowl weekend show here to talk about. They did. I'll mention one thing. They finished the show, the telecast, with Drew McIntyre sneaking down to the ring and staring down Randy Orton. I think they're playing that up as, those are the two behemoths in Elimination Chamber. They've announced that there are 4 more matches that are going to take place to fill out Elimination Chamber, but just to have Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton in it, those are 2 A-listers.
Oh, for sure.
So right away, and that was your visual going off the air. Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, 2 bigger guys and bigger names with the stare down. So they're pushing Elimination Chamber. Good for them. And don't forget about these second-tier pay-per-view that happens to be sandwiched between 2 of your big 4. Right. Maybe your 2 biggest, right? Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, arguably the 2 biggest events of the year.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's it for the show.
It's drive time, isn't it?
You know what? Yeah, I believe it's time, though.
I'm sitting a little back from my camera today with my setup here, but you can still see that thumb there, can't you? It is drive time. It is time for the thumb drive. John and I are going to distill this show into a simple thumbs up or thumbs down. There are no star ratings. There are no letter grades. There are no number grades. You are taking this course pass, fail.
We're not Dave Meltzer. We don't do star ratings. We just say thumbs up or thumbs down, yes or no.
It is a simple binary. Deal with it, folks.
So ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh,
This was a good show. If you added up the total wrestling time, it probably wasn't a big wrestling show, but the 4 matches featured stars all over the place, and they made up for the lack of total duration by making them fast-paced and not like milking it.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a lot of action in the amount of wrestling time that we saw. I liked it. I liked the story angles. I liked the finishes, and I liked that even in losing, at least, Michin looks like she's getting a push. And in losing, it looks like they're setting up LA Knight, AJ Styles, which may be the thing I'm looking forward to the most from this whole show.
Right. And I have to agree as far as the wrestling's concerned. Like last week, I was way thumbs down. I like hated last week's show. I was like, there's like no wrestling. We had all these promos, like all this Logan Paul and the mic time. And this week was just like, here's a simple formula for why we were going to see some matches, and they gave us good matches. So today it was like night and day from last week's SmackDown to this week's SmackDown. Big fan of this week's SmackDown. I watched it after, and I didn't really fast forward through much of it. Like I wasn't like last week. I probably would have just been hammering the fast forward button. But like this week, I was like actually pretty interested and compelled with all the matches, which is what you want.
I will make an admission here. If we got a second show this week that was like last week's, I would have given it a thumbs down. I gave them a pass last week because, it was right after Royal Rumble, and they did have to move quickly with storylines. So, I gave them a pass. But, if they had done that to us 2 weeks in a row, I would have been thumbs down. So this was a good recovery with more wrestling. This is how you should do it. So thank you, WWE, for not testing my patience.
Well, that's the thumb drive. We give it 2 thumbs up, which is a good bounce back from last week, which is almost a 2 thumbs down. And even the Royal Rumble, which we were kind of 50-50 on. So a good bounce back show. And that'll bring us into, is it getting hot in here, Tom?
I'm feeling warm, and things are always a little inexpensive around here.
Things are very inexpensive. We were just talking about our setup, and I'm on a 10-year-old laptop that I got for free, and Dom is got to repair his laptop, and we're talking about how much money we've really put into this, and it's very little, folks. Very
little. Cheap heat. It's not just a segment. It's a way of life here.
Right.
So yes, cheap heat is my laptop is, the fan is dying. It sounds like the Taylor Swift goat yelling video that people made years ago, that parody. It's either that or fingernails on the chalkboard. So yes, I've got headphones on and an external mic so that you guys don't have to hear the screaming goat that I hear coming from this machine that's not quite that old.
And we're talking cheap heat here. We
are talking cheap heat, and it's Super Bowl weekend. You teased this before. George Kittle, during the Super Bowl press conference, was talking about how he thought maybe it should be Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania for the belt, and The Rock as the special referee. And Triple H retweeted it, calling him the people's tight end, knows what's up. How's that for an endorsement? First of all, George Kittle was apparently known to be a wrestling fan, and I guess it was The Rock who called him not the people's champ, but the people's tight end. And so, like, leaning into that, George Kittle looks like he could be a wrestling fan. He plays like it too. He's a tight end who can do it all. What do you think about him floating this rumor, and what do you think about Triple H amplifying it, whether it's true or not, whether it's going to be the storyline or not?
Well, it looks like Triple H is really into swerving people. I think he really he must get a kick out of it or something, because based on how much stuff they leaked to Meltzer that's incorrect, and how much stuff that like they want to allude and then they swerve. Like they alluded that Cody Rhodes or Roman Reigns would face The Rock, and then they swerve from that. So he loves to swerve. So maybe he's And I think this is a good idea. It should be a mystery, right? What's actually going to happen?
Sure.
It would be pretty horrible to have The Rock and use him as a special guest referee, so it would be such a lame use of such a big star. But it's something that I think Triple H just really, really likes to just confuse everyone, which is an interesting way. As the creative content officer,
the chief content officer. Is this just another day at the office for Triple H, swerving people on the interwebbies?
I can only imagine he doesn't pay. I hope at least he doesn't pay too much attention to Twitter, and he's got somebody under him that is like, "Oh, hey, this might be a good idea." It's like, "Sure, go ahead, fire it out."
And that he's not letting George Kittle book WrestleMania here in early February.
Yeah, and there's probably they want to attach themselves so much to every little thing that's going on outside of wrestling that if someone's talking about it, then if somebody from the NFL is talking about pro wrestling, then they want to be a part of that, right?
Absolutely, they do. And hey, we got to have equal time here for the big game. One All-Pro, perhaps future Hall of Fame tight end. To another, the Kansas City Chiefs have one. It's Travis Kelce. He was asked what would be his pro wrestling character's name. And he said the Big Yeti, which got a retweet from the WWE on Fox. Is Travis Kelce aware that the WCW tried a Yeti character that is infamous for being one of the worst gimmicks in pro wrestling history? Or is do we give Travis Kelce a pass here for not knowing Dungeon of Doom era pre-NWO WCW failed gimmicks? By the way, that is Ron Reese, who we have mentioned before on the show, under all of that toilet paper as the Yeti.
Yeah, this would be, you'd have to have some serious pro wrestling knowledge to know who this is. So maybe he's thinking, oh, I'm like the Big Yeti. And then it's eventually like, no, this is, oh my God, I do remember this.
There's the giant bear hugging Hulk Hogan. And they told the Yeti, go in there and just attack Hulk Hogan too. Well, so he just went for the bear hug too. So it's a double bear hug. Everybody thought, why is the Yeti humping Hulk Hogan?
Right.
So yes, this is the Yeti. Thankfully, a very short-lived character in the WWE. This is like Shockmaster bad. If any of you remember the Shockmaster. So Travis Kelce, I don't know if you're sneakily doing a callback to an embarrassing and secretly like well-loved for the comedy quotient of it incident in pro wrestling, or if you just accidentally stumbled into something. But if you want to be the Big Yeti, you can be the Big Yeti. It's going to be the People's tight end versus the Big Yeti in the Super Bowl. Equal time. We enjoy that there are big time, perhaps future Hall of Fame tight ends in the NFL who are wrestling fans and who enjoy this stuff as much as we do, John, right?
Yeah, Travis is absolutely first ballot Hall of Famer. And then time will tell.
George Kittle's got a couple of first team all pros himself. Doesn't have the ring yet. And therefore doesn't have the playoff records that Travis has. But like regular season, Kittle's been every bit the player that Kelce has.
Yeah.
Just not in the big moments. Is this, let's cheap heat the Super Bowl. Is this George Kittle's? Who goes over in this one?
I am a huge Eagles fan, as you may know. So I am not really looking forward to the Super Bowl. And I hope the Chiefs beat the Niners.
Okay.
And that's going to be ridiculous to say because we already have, they have so many titles already. The Chiefs, I think it's 2.
6 consecutive conference championship games. This is
Yeah.
their 4th Super Bowl that they've made it to.
So it will be ridiculous to root for such a team that's had so much success, but that's who I'm rooting for. I don't know about you, but I would say even if I should say I am a betting man and I'll be betting the Chiefs. So
Okay, very good. I am not a betting man, and from my sports writing days, that's a shoot, not a work. Actually, it was my work, so it's a shoot because it was my work. It was my job. For my sports writing days, I've learned to watch the game for the game and watch it as a reporter. And I just don't want the game to suck. I'm not one of those people who watches for the commercials. I actually want to watch the game, and then I do something else during the halftime show because I'm just not interested. Like, I
Yeah.
want to watch the game, and I just want it to be a good game. It's like the way I watch pro wrestling. I want a good match.
Yes, I think that's really the key. So to be fair, I usually only bet the playoff games, and I'll put like $10 on them, and then or $25 on each game, and then I'll bet the Super Bowl, and I'll put 50 on that. And then
Okay.
that's it. So I'm not really that big of a betting man because I'm betting a total of like $150. But I will have to say, yeah, I'll bet this game. Or I was looking at the over/under, the total punts. I was thinking about going under 7.5 punts. So I root for
Ooh.
points the whole time and no punting.
Okay.
But that would be a funny way to do, because I'm not too big on either team, so maybe I'll just focus on how many punts they do. Keep it real.
You just don't want to see a lot of punts.
No punting. No punting.
We don't want to see a lot of rest holes in this Super Bowl.
No rest holds. Exactly.
Very good. I mean, we'll go for a good headlock takeover here and there, but no rest holes, please.
We don't mess with the rest holds now.
Hey, before the Super Bowls of the WWE WrestleMania, there's the Conference Championships Elimination Chamber. This is getting a ton of play in Australia. This is yet another Australia sports outlet picking up on Elimination Chamber. There's LA Knight and Grayson Waller there with some rugby fellows, giving them a WWE custom-made belt. This is huge. This is like the biggest thing happening in Australia since they hosted the Olympics. Grayson Waller is a hometown guy. This is also why I'm wondering if LA Knight, AJ Styles will be at Elimination Chamber. With all the promo work they sent LA Knight to Australia to do and how well received it was, I think LA Knight's got to be on this show coming up. LA Knight has to be in Elimination Chamber. You can't waste this. Like, he's too over, and he's too over in Australia. Grayson Waller's got to be there, obviously. But let's say if LA Knight can be on this premium live event, this old-fashioned, formerly known as pay-per-views, that WWE is going to do in a couple of weekends here. I like this. It's fantastic. John, you've talked about before how going to other countries outside the mainland U.S., their fans, because they don't get this that often, they really turn out for these live events. Rhea Ripley, she's from Western Australia, where the event's going to take place out there in Perth. It is not the eastern part of Australia where all the big cities are and most people live. It's like 1,000-something, maybe 2,000 miles away out in Perth, which is kind of isolated by itself over on the west. But yet this is getting such play all over the island, all throughout the country. Big stars. I like it. And to that note, one of the people announced for the women's Elimination Chamber qualifying matches, Liv Morgan, whose arrest case down in Florida was apparently resolved. No jail time. Her case is closed. The WWE previously had hinted that there was going to be no sanctions against her. So, what say we like Liv Morgan? She was one of our favorites when we saw her more on SmackDown. What say you about what does it say about the WWE that they kind of let this case, this marijuana case, play out without going crazy on Liv, and she's booked right away into an Elimination Chamber qualifying match? This by the way comes to us from comingsoon.net. The previous one was from Wild World of Sports Australia, and of course this was Pro Wrestling Stories that gave us the Yeti. Just want to credit some of the outlets out there that have this great wrestling content if you want to find more about it. And of course, everybody knows Twitter X for the Twitter content. But what say you about this coming soon article here that Liv Morgan's case is closed? The WWE is not going to put her in the doghouse, apparently. She's got an Elimination Chamber qualifying match.
I'll tell you what. I couldn't believe that she actually got arrested because it's been where we live, it's been decriminalized for so long. And then now even sold legally that I forgot all about that. It's like, oh no, in Florida, it's still, you can still get arrested for it. I guess there's just goofy things from state to state that you can and can't do.
Driving with it or not and things, it's maybe treated differently state by state. But yeah, are you glad? She was also legitimately hurt. And they had done an angle where Rhea Ripley just destroyed her and injured her and put her out of action for months. So now they're throwing her right back into, Liv is one of the people vying for Rhea Ripley's title at WrestleMania, but first they got to go through Elimination Chamber. So good to see her thrown back into the mix here.
Yeah, maybe, obviously because it's still like a publicly traded company. They don't want stuff like that. She had a talking to, but ultimately this is no big deal, especially in the wrestling world. Like these guys, some people in the wrestling world, they're out of control, right? Like they're doing crazy stuff. So this is no big deal.
Yep. Former women's champion was arrested, stopped her vehicle after observing it crossing the road's lines. And it's the kind of thing, like once you are pulled over for something else, I guess if they find marijuana not exceeding 20 grams, and perhaps she had a vape pen there with it, potentially synthetic cannabis, but they just pile on the charges. So once they pull you over, if they find something in the car, then it becomes, we tack on these charges. Apparently Liv was not in danger. She was not really endangering anybody else. The WWE understood. And they're just getting on with it. And everything sort of coincided with her being healed from her injury. Looks like she's back in shape, which is always an important thing once you get over injury. It's just not like, okay, I'm cleared to wrestle. It's I got to work myself back into wrestling shape. So it'll be good to see her back. Let's get to AEW. Sting's career is almost ending. He and Darby Allin won the tag team belts on Dynamite and got a shout out from another Rhodes, Dustin Rhodes, who has a long history with Sting going all the way back to their WCW days, not just this last run in AEW for each of them. So what do you think of Dustin Rhodes calling this out here since they have such a history? And what do you think of Sting and Darby Allin winning? And it's a three-part question. What do you think of what happened at the end of Dynamite with the Young Bucks, who are executive vice presidents, that's a shoot, at AEW, coming in white suits and white baseball bats, taking out the new champs? You're our AEW fans. Break it down for us, Dr. John.
Yeah, this is really good. I watched this match.
I mean, the Stinger, if this is it, maybe you got to do that. Maybe you got to do it for the Stinger. I don't know. Orton yet. You didn't want to waste LA Knight yet. So you threw AJ Styles in there to get pinned by Roman Reigns to save the other stories. Like, I'm thinking of it like if Swerve Strickland is this hot, they're doing the triple threat to save the Swerve Strickland story.
And Joe could pin Hangman.
Yes.
And then
Swerve could say, you didn't beat me.
You never beat me. Swerve could pin Joe. And Swerve would probably pin Hangman.
Yeah. And then Joe could jump up and say, you didn't beat me for my title. That's my title.
Hangman could pin Joe, and Swerve could go after,
go after Hangman. Okay.
Go after the Hangman. And because I like the Hangman a lot. So
you do? Okay.
He was their champ for a while there, and he's not so hot on the mic, but they turned him heel, which is always, again, because he was working babyface forever. So now they turn him heel. It's like, oh, this might be a better spot for him.
Some guys just have the better heel personality, right, on the mic.
Yeah. So
So,
I don't know.
but you like Swerve Strickland. Swerve Strickland, has he been a world champion in AEW yet?
No.
Okay, so he's the guy on the rise.
Right, he was a tag champ,
He was a tag champ, but not a singles champ.
not a singles champ, and
Okay.
he's just built momentum and gotten better and better. He's probably put on.
He's their LA Knight. Is he just organically getting over?
Yeah. It's completely organic. They didn't even mean for it really to happen, but
He was a heel for a while, but he's just getting over with the crowd on his own for who he is.
yeah, he's like a very violent guy.
Okay.
So, and of course, they try to make him a heel that's violent, but then of course people just love violence. So, like, yeah, cool.
The AEW crowd is into that, right?
Yeah, like he went and went to like Hangman's house and was like going through his house, like going after his kids and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, cool," you know.
Wow. Okay. The AEW may be a different animal, especially in the arenas. You've been to one of the shows. It gets it's quite an atmosphere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
One more here. Back to comingsoon.net. Actually, two more maybe. Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, has been on the AEW payroll without making an appearance. That's a whole lot of money for nothing. I guess they signed her because they wanted to make sure she didn't go to the WWE, but they didn't have something for her right away. What do you think of her? And this comes to us from comingsoon.net. What do you think of this news that she's been on AEW for at least a month and they still don't have something for us to do? Maybe they're aiming at a Boston TD Garden show on March 13th, which is that right after their pay-per-view?
Yeah, it's after their pay-per-view.
Okay.
It's good work if you can get it to get paid to do nothing, right?
Right, to enter the fray slowly.
Yeah, so good for Mercedes here. And oh, Fran.
The Yeti! The Yeti is here!
Oh, that's from a while ago. I hope he's still here.
Oh my goodness.
We're talking about
someone caught the Yeti. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're anyways, I think that it's going to be a good show, or I think this is a good concept to kind of hold her off for a little bit and wait for the Vince stuff to blow over, because I think they wanted to premiere, and now you could just be like, okay, we'll build the show. Her hometown is Boston. Then they're like, we're going to be in Boston. Mercedes Moné will be there. And I know they've been sagging with ticket sales. At least you'll have a big house, right?
Okay, very good then. She was hurt for a while. Has she wrestled a lot since her injury over in Japan?
No, she's just been on the shelf. I think her injury was pretty serious.
Yeah, so I hope she's recovered and can do Mercedes Moné things that you remember. She was one of the 4 horsewomen in the WWE as Sasha Banks, wasn't she?
Mm-hmm. And
so they expect big things from her.
Yeah.
Right? Because if the WWE had signed her, they'd be doing big things with her. So they expect big things from an AEW. We'll see if she can still bring it. We hope she can. One more. Lance Storm is not a fan of using gimmick names for finishing moves. What do you think about Lance Storm here with this? Do you like gimmick names for finishing moves, or would you rather just call them more the descriptive name of what they are?
Oh, so like instead of the Stone Cold Stunner, it'd be like the front face drop.
Well, it's just a stunner instead of the Stone Cold or the RKO. You know, instead of just using his initials, they use it what it is. It's a cutter. It's a inverted bulldog. Lance Storm is talking about, he used to joke with Edge to this. He used to have his education, his educator, you know, everything was Edge something, you know, and he said, why don't you call something the Edgelicious? So he's given a little to a longtime WWE and AEW star now, Adam Copeland. What do you think? This was on the Chris Van Vliet Insight podcast. This comes to us from WrestleZone, talking about just this segment of it. What do you think of these moves getting just names that are there just to get the talent's name over rather than really describe it?
I have watched a little bit of that Chris Van Vliet interview, and I
Okay.
think it was pretty good.
Okay.
So shout out to Chris Van Vliet, who is much bigger and in the YouTube world than we are, but he's really made a name for himself the last couple of years here. And I'd have to say, kind of weird to not. It's a weird thing to kind of say that people shouldn't name their finishers. I don't know that I necessarily agree, but I know Lance Storm is a pretty coveted mind in pro wrestling. People seem to really gravitate toward him. So maybe not. It's not something I feel strongly yes or no about.
Sure.
How about you? What do you think? What do you think about this one?
When I would call matches, I would try to call the name the move what it was, unless somebody told me they had a name for their finishing move. In which case, I would usually, the reporter in me would get the best of me. I would call the thing what its name was, but then I would also say what it was as a move.
Oh, okay.
Like I would say, like, he hit him with the Sunday gravy, which is that inverted Russian leg sweep.
Right. Maybe that's the best way to do it, is say the name and then what it is.
Or I would say, he nailed him with the Russian roulette. Is he setting him up for the Russian roulette? Which was that, single arm back cracker into the side Russian leg sweep. I would call it the name, but I would also call it the thing,
Yeah, no, that's probably the compromise. Hopefully Lance Storm would accept. We'll have to talk to him about that at some point.
And if guys didn't tell me a special name they had for it, I would just, call it what it was. Or try to give it a descriptor thing, And sometimes I can see why they want to just name it something, because sometimes the description gets a little wordy.
Yeah.
Like, it's an inverted half Boston crab, It's the Edgelicious,
Or if it's like the RKO, their big gimmick is it's out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like RKO out of nowhere. And, ultimately RKO out of nowhere is, if you had to explain the name, it would go on for a while.
It's a better call, or sometimes they would. John Cena adapted the step over toe hold face lock, which was an STF for short, because people got tired of saying step over toe hold face lock. And then his character at the time was like FU was everything. So he just called it the STFU. Yeah. And people were like, okay, we'll call it the STFU. Kind of combining the name of the move with just his gimmick. So I like those. What about this thing they stuck in there at the end? Chris Jericho and Lance Storm having a last wrestling match for either one of them or both of them. They're both Canadian. They're both great workers. Did you catch that part of the interview? And what do you think about Lance Storm getting back in the ring, maybe?
It's been a while. Well, yeah, I would be cool with this. I feel like right now Jericho's in a bit of a weird spot. If you keep up with AEW, he's getting some, like, just overall the internet's kind of like turned on him a bit. But he's very overexposed. Like, he's been wrestling nonstop with no break for years. Yeah, and there just needs to be kind of, you feel like, all right, he's been great for their company for sure, but how about 3 to 6 months we just put him away for a little bit and then bring him back out, And he's got all these other side projects where he works with Fozzy. He has a podcast. He could easily do it. I don't know why he doesn't.
Okay. Well, have you noticed Chris Jericho maybe stepping away the last few weeks on AEW?
No, he wrestled this Wednesday. So
okay, so he's not taking your advice.
He wrestled a match that was like 20 minutes long and very physical, and the whole thing a real match. So
all right,
he's still hanging around.
He can still go then if he's doing a 25-minute match.
I thought he looked pretty good.
Okay.
And it's funny because he looked pretty good and the internet's trashing him all the time, but he looked good. And I think he wrestled his name. Oh my God.
Do you think Lance Storm could still go, and would you want to see that match? I haven't seen Lance Storm in a long time. I'd like to see a Lance Storm Chris Jericho match.
Yeah, I'd be in for it. All right,
yeah, that'd be something. I that's all I got. It's cheap. It's heat. It's cheap heat.
That's right. That's all we got.
Which just doesn't have the same effect when I can't lean right up into the camera.
I'll tell you what, as we're entering the Italian goodbye here. So, folks, for those of you that are tuned in right now, the Italian goodbye is when we start to say goodbye, but we hang around for a while here. And part of the Italian goodbye is me saying, I think it sounds pretty good. I'll have to get the recorded version of this, but I think the mic might have to stay, Dom. I don't know.
I might have to use the mic even if I don't need the headphones.
Right. Oh, so you have the headphones in because it keeps the sound out.
It lets me concentrate more on the audio signal I'm supposed to get, which is you talking, without and it, you know, it kind of muffles the screaming goat that is my laptop's cooling fan at the moment.
Gotcha. I haven't heard anything from it, so
good. I've MacGyvered together my setup here. My laptop, I'm not kidding you, it's on 2 Rubbermaid food containers that I've turned over. They're empty, of course, just so I can rest the laptop on a surface that doesn't retain heat and also create some circulation underneath it. I've got a small box fan behind the laptop, getting some airflow underneath the laptop, so it's not overheating, even though it doesn't have a functioning fan inside the laptop. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Too much equipment. There's too much stuff. I'm a minimalist, John. I'm a minimalist. I don't feel minimalist. I'm cheap heat and I feel too much pampered. I don't want to be pampered guy. I want to be cheap guy. It's cheap heat, not bougie pampered heat.
Well, you're not. Well, I'll tell you what. It sounds like you have a lot going on with the setup because I know you typically have the guitar behind you, and you told me you can't even put the guitar behind you.
No, it's over there.
It
won't fit. I kept backing into it because I've got to create extra space for extra stuff.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, Dom. We are up to 441 subscribers.
Very good number. I like it.
On YouTube. And that's, if you are watching right now, I know we have some people on Twitch. Check out our YouTube channel. That's where all of our little short videos live and all of our long form live videos as well. We have released a couple of videos this week. Probably the one that performed the best is obviously the one about The Rock and Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, which is just me and Dom really unedited talking about it. We have some other stuff out there right now about Kenny Omega's injury, and the Stephanie McMahon video continues to get views too, which is really cool.
Yes, that one's climbing. We've had a couple of videos break 2,000 from our first month and month and a week here. The Jade Cargill video keeps creeping up in views every now and then. Yeah. If you're watching us on Twitch, on Facebook, on Twitter, thank you very much for finding the live stream and the full show. But those platforms aren't as good for keeping an archive of video content. We use YouTube for that and for live streaming also. Don't bury the lead on YouTube. Check out the shorts, which are the under 60-second videos that John, that you make. You're our video editor here and audio editor.
That's true.
Check out our edited clips that you make that are somewhere in that 2 to 5 minute range. Sometimes we throw a whole 10 or 12 minute segment in there, like we did with the Roman Reigns Rock revelation from the previous week. lot of great stuff there, and people seem to like it. You know, we like doing the live streams. You like recapping the shows, but we also like just keeping up on the world of big time pro wrestling here in the U.S. And it looks like we have a lot of viewers who want to do the same. Find us on YouTube. Don't bury the lead. It's the best.
That's right. And Dom, you know, I have been pretty busy this weekend with a sick baby who I believe just got home. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and say thank you all so much for watching. We're at about 90 minutes now. So we've talked about everything we kind of can. I'd say I'm not doing the Irish goodbye right now because I'm actually talking about it, but I'm doing less of an Italian goodbye at the moment.
Sure. We got places to go and things to do.
And we got the Super Bowl to watch tonight. So thank you all very much for joining. And thanks, Dom, so much. And have a great rest of your afternoon.